Preparing for a CrewAI interview? You've reached Candy Mentor, and this video is for you. We'll walk through 15 key questions you're likely to face. For each one, you'll see what the interviewer is testing, the core concepts you should cover, and a sample answer. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a topic request in the comments. Question 1. What is CrewAI, and when would you use it instead of a single LLM call? The interviewer wants to assess your understanding of CrewAI's purpose, where multi-agent orchestration adds value, and whether you can distinguish a structured agent workflow from a simple prompt or single LLM call. While answering, focus on agents, roles, tasks, tools, collaboration, and the business reason for using CrewAI, decomposing complex work into repeatable, auditable steps rather than relying on one broad instruction. CrewAI is a Python framework for building teams of AI agents that work together on tasks. I use it when the work benefits from specialization, like one agent researching, another analyzing, and another writing the final output. Compared with a single LLM call, CrewAI gives clearer roles, tool access, task sequencing, and better control over outputs. The key is not adding agents for complexity, but designing a workflow that improves reliability and repeatability. Question 2. How do roles, goals, and backstories influence agent behavior in CrewAI? The interviewer is testing your understanding of CrewAI's agent design primitives and whether you can translate a business process into clear responsibilities rather than vague, overlapping agent instructions. Make sure to cover role, goal, backstory, tools, delegation, and constraints. Emphasize that good agent design reduces ambiguity, improves task handoffs, and makes debugging easier when outputs are weak. I treat an agent like a specialized team member. The role defines who the agent is. The goal defines what it is trying to achieve, and the backstory gives context that shapes its tone and decision-making. For example, a financial analyst agent should not just be smart. It should know it is checking assumptions, citing data, and flagging risks. Clear design prevents two agents from doing the same work or producing inconsistent outputs. Question 3. What is the difference between sequential and hierarchical processes in CrewAI? This question evaluates whether you understand CrewAI process types, especially how task execution changes when agents follow a fixed sequence versus when a manager agent coordinates, reviews, and delegates work. Be sure to mention sequential workflows, hierarchical management, task dependencies, review loops, and when additional coordination is worth the overhead. Tie the choice to complexity, quality control, and predictability. In a sequential process, tasks run in a defined order, which is ideal for predictable pipelines like research, analysis, then drafting. Hierarchical execution adds a manager agent that can coordinate, assign, and evaluate work across agents. I would choose sequential when the workflow is stable and easy to audit. I would use hierarchical when the problem is ambiguous, has multiple work streams, or needs quality review before the final answer is delivered. Question 4. How would you use tools with CrewAI agents, and what risks would you manage? The interviewer wants to assess whether you can connect agents to external capabilities safely, such as web search, databases, APIs, calculators, files, or internal systems, instead of relying only on model memory. While answering, focus on tool selection, permissions, input validation, error handling, logging, rate limits, and why tools should be assigned only to agents that genuinely need them. Tools are how CrewAI agents act beyond text generation. If an analyst needs current market data, I would attach a search or API tool. If it needs calculations, I would give it a Python or calculator tool. I try to keep tool access narrow because every tool introduces security, cost, and reliability risks. Good practice is to validate inputs, log tool calls, handle failures gracefully, and make the final answer cite tool-derived evidence. Question 5. What makes a well-defined task in CrewAI? The interviewer is testing your ability to define CrewAI tasks with clear inputs, outputs, and success criteria. Because poor task definitions often cause vague responses, duplicated work, and brittle workflows. In your answer, talk about task descriptions, expected output, dependencies, assigned agents, context from prior tasks, and how precise deliverables make evaluation and debugging easier. A good CrewAI task tells the agent exactly what to do and what a finished answer should look like. I define the objective, required inputs, format, constraints, and expected output. For example, instead of asking, "Analyze this company," I would ask for 3 revenue drivers, 2 margin risks, and a 5-bullet investment view with sources. That level of specificity reduces hallucination, improves comparability, and helps me identify which task failed if the final output is weak. Question 6. How should context and memory be managed in a CrewAI workflow? This question evaluates your grasp of context management in CrewAI, including what information agents retain, how prior task outputs are passed forward, and why memory can improve or harm consistency. Make sure to cover short-term context, long-term memory where applicable, task context, relevance filtering, token limits, privacy concerns, and the need to avoid carrying forward bad assumptions. Context is valuable only when it is relevant. In CrewAI, I think about what each agent needs from previous tasks and what should be excluded. Passing a research summary into an analysis task makes sense. Passing every raw note may confuse the model or waste tokens. Memory can help with continuity across runs, but I would use it carefully for sensitive data, and always design checks so one incorrect assumption does not contaminate the whole workflow. Question 7. When would you allow agents to delegate work to each other in CrewAI? The interviewer wants to assess whether you understand agent collaboration mechanics and can decide when agents should delegate tasks, challenge each other, or work independently to improve output quality. While answering, focus on delegation settings, division of labor, manager oversight, review agents, escalation criteria, and the risk of excessive agent chatter that increases cost without improving results. I enable delegation when the task naturally benefits from specialization. For example, a strategy agent may ask a research agent to gather evidence, then ask a critic agent to test the conclusion. But I do not let every agent delegate freely by default, because that can create loops, extra cost, and unclear ownership. My preference is to define primary responsibility, allow delegation only where useful, and add a final review step for quality control. Question 8. How would you reduce hallucinations and unsupported claims in CrewAI outputs? This question evaluates your practical approach to controlling hallucinations, unsupported claims, and inconsistent outputs in CrewAI, especially when multiple agents compound errors across a workflow. Be sure to mention grounded prompts, source requirements, tool-based verification, critic or reviewer agents, deterministic settings where appropriate, output schemas, and human approval for high-risk decisions. I manage hallucination by designing the workflow around evidence, not confidence. Research agents should cite sources or tool outputs. Analysis agents should separate facts from assumptions. And a reviewer agent should challenge unsupported claims. I also use structured output formats so missing evidence is visible. For sensitive use cases, I keep a human approval step. Multi-agent systems can look persuasive, so I want traceability from the final answer back to the supporting data. Question 9. How does CrewAI compare with LangChain, LangGraph, or AutoGen-style frameworks? The interviewer is testing whether you can compare CrewAI with adjacent orchestration frameworks and make a practical architecture choice based on workflow complexity, control requirements, and developer experience. In your answer, talk about CrewAI's role-based simplicity, LangChain's broader components, LangGraph's graph control, AutoGen-style conversations, and why the best choice depends on the application. CrewAI is attractive when I want a clean, role-based multi-agent workflow that is easy to explain and prototype. LangChain is broader, with many building blocks for retrieval, tools, and chains. LangGraph gives more explicit graph control, which is useful for complex branching, retries, and state management. I would not say one is always better. For a structured analyst workflow, CrewAI may be faster. For production systems needing detailed state transitions, I might choose LangGraph. Question 10. What would you consider before deploying a CrewAI workflow into production? The interviewer wants to assess whether you can move beyond demos and think about deploying CrewAI workflows with reliability, observability, cost control, security, and integration into existing systems. Make sure to cover environment management, secrets, logging, monitoring, retries, model selection, latency, token costs, versioning prompts, testing outputs, and fallback paths when tools or models fail. For production, I treat a CrewAI workflow like any other application component. I externalize credentials, log every task and tool call, monitor latency and cost, and add retries for transient failures. I also version prompts and task definitions, because small wording changes can alter behavior. Before release, I test against known cases and edge cases. If a model or API fails, the workflow should degrade gracefully, rather than silently producing a low-quality answer. Question 11. How would you design structured outputs from CrewAI agents? This question evaluates whether you can make CrewAI outputs machine-readable and dependable, which matters when agent results feed dashboards, databases, downstream automations, or compliance review. While answering, focus on schemas, expected output fields, JSON validation, examples and prompts, post-processing checks, and rejecting or retrying outputs that do not match requirements. I would define the expected output as a schema, not just a paragraph request. For example, if the task produces a risk assessment, I might require fields for risk category, evidence, severity, confidence, and recommended action. Then I would validate the response before passing it downstream. If the output is missing fields or contains invalid types, I would retry or route it to review. Structured outputs make agent workflows easier to test and integrate. Question 12. Design a CrewAI workflow for monthly financial variance analysis. The interviewer wants to assess your ability to apply CrewAI to a realistic business workflow, decomposing a finance or operations problem into agents, tasks, tools, controls, and final deliverables. In your answer, talk about the specific use case, agent roles, required data sources, sequence of tasks, validation steps, and how the output would support a human decision. For a monthly variance analysis, I would create a data extraction agent, an accounting analyst agent, and a reviewer agent. The first pulls actuals, budget, and prior period data from controlled sources. The analyst identifies material variances, explains drivers, and flags unusual accounts. The reviewer checks calculations, consistency, and whether explanations are supported. The final output would be a concise management summary with tables, commentary, and open questions for the finance team. Question 13. How would you test and evaluate a CrewAI workflow? This question evaluates your understanding of testing AI agent workflows, including how to measure correctness, consistency, usefulness, and regressions when prompts, tools, models, or data sources change. Be sure to mention golden datasets, expected outputs, human review, automated checks, source verification, edge cases, cost and latency metrics, and regression testing after workflow changes. I would test CrewAI workflows with a mix of deterministic checks and expert review. First, I build a set of representative test cases with expected answers or evaluation criteria. Then, I check whether outputs contain required fields, cite valid sources, and avoid known errors. For subjective quality, I use human scoring rubrics. I also track latency, token cost, and failure rates. Any prompt, model, or tool change should trigger regression tests before deployment. Question 14. What security and governance controls matter when using CrewAI with internal data? The interviewer wants to assess whether you recognize security, privacy, and governance risks in CrewAI systems, especially when agents access confidential files, customer data, internal APIs, or external tools. Make sure to cover least privilege access, secrets management, data masking, audit logs, prompt injection risks, tool restrictions, human approvals, and compliance with company data policies. I would start with least privilege. Each agent should only access the tools and data required for its task, and secrets should never be hard-coded in prompts or code. I would mask sensitive data where possible, log agent actions, and review tool calls for anomalies. Prompt injection is a real risk if agents read external content, so I would restrict dangerous actions and require human approval before sending emails, changing records, or exposing confidential information. Question 15. A CrewAI workflow is slow, expensive, and producing inconsistent answers. How would you debug it? This question evaluates your troubleshooting discipline when a CrewAI workflow produces poor answers, loops, high costs, slow execution, or inconsistent results across similar inputs. While answering, focus on isolating tasks, inspecting prompts, reviewing tool logs, checking agent overlap, validating inputs, measuring token usage, simplifying the crew, and adding guardrails. I debug from the task level upward. First, I run each task independently to see where quality breaks. Then I inspect prompts, expected outputs, tool responses, and context passed between agents. If agents overlap, I clarify responsibilities or remove one. If costs are high, I reduce unnecessary delegation, shorten context, or use a cheaper model for simpler tasks. The goal is to simplify until the workflow is reliable. Then add complexity only where it improves results. If you are still with us, congratulations! You are much ahead of the rest and serious about preparing for your interview. We hope we were able to add value to your preparation and create some helpful content. Do not forget to like and share this video. Your small act can do great things for us.